Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to go to EPA. It's pretty much like a bigger Walmart, but for more tools, like specifically made for tools. So we're going to see the nursery section. So we're just gonna explore a bit of what they have here, the different plants. I'm gonna show around some of the different pots, pretty much the garden material they have, and that sort of stuff. So honestly, it was pretty interesting. I couldn't really record like the audio in there since they were playing copyright music, so sadly couldn't really talk during the video. But they had a lot of pretty cool stuff. They had a couple different, I forget the name, like the water fountains. Those are pretty cool. I may want to get one just for the relaxing sounds that it makes. I really like the sound, so maybe I'll get one of those in the future just to have here. But more than likely, it would look better in a prepper garden. So yeah, over here they just had a couple different insecticides and pesticides for the plants and for different rodents and pests. So not much interesting there. They had a couple different um, fertilizers. They had a couple different fertilizers. They had like bulk, like you saw there, like the bulk bigger ones, but I really stick to just the same type of fertilizer, and it's worked perfectly for all my plants. There is something that I would like to try maybe in the future, which is making like an edible garden. So I might get some seeds and make some seeding trays and make some videos on that if you guys are interested in that. But I noticed they didn't have much material for growing plants. They didn't have any perlite, coconut koi, or anything of the sort. They just had uh, pretty much coconut like chunks, like big coconut chunks. Those are big pieces of wood. I think they also had the pretty much the fertilized dirt or the compost. I'm not sure the name, but they did have quite a few interesting things. Right now, in a second, we're going to start looking at a bit of the plants. But they did have a lot of very interesting ones. They had not only ornamental plants, but they also had edible plants. So I will show you those in just a second. They had quite a good variety of pots. I was really interested in the transparent ones since at that time I didn't really have any transparent pots that I have now. But I got a couple packs from Amazon, and honestly, they work just fine. They did have quite a few orchids. I'm not very good with growing orchids yet. I have gotten one, and sadly, it pretty much died immediately. But they had a couple different prints of orange. I really like the bright orange color, but I don't really like the fact that they lose the color after the first leaf. I have been looking for a while to see if I get lucky and find one of these anthuriums, but variegated. Sometimes I know that there have been some big box stores that by some mistake or some error they let through a variegated plant. So hopefully I'm trying to see if I'm lucky enough to find one of those. There are a lot of beautiful plants there with flowers, but honestly I don't really know the name of many of those. Most of those are just for outside gardens, so they're pretty much for mostly landscaping since there aren't that many indoor ornamental plants there, but there are quite a few beautiful plants that have very nice flowers. I said before, I don't really know the name of these more garden plants, but I really like all of the flowers and the colors that they have. Hopefully, I'm able to get a space here in my house where I can actually make a decent garden and actually grow edible plants and have these more, not so much indoor ornamental, but mostly outside that have either crazier colors, better flowers, and stuff like that. So hopefully, I'm able to create one of those in the near future. They had quite a few bromeliads. Those are also outside plants. I have seen quite a lot of them in different nurseries. So it's very, very cool to see how all of them are very different, very exotic. They had a couple monsteras, and they had something very cool, which yeah, I that's about $6 maybe for a tiny vanilla vine or plant. I'm not sure which it is, but they had vanilla plants. Sadly, the fact, the matter, as a matter of fact, uh, vanillas are quite slow growers, and they do need proper like manual uh, pollination per se, so that they can actually produce vanilla beans, and it is quite a lengthy and very tedious uh, job per se. There are a couple different edible plants, the tomatoes, the bell peppers. So as before, as most likely I'm gonna start making one of those sometime in the future, just to see how it is to grow some edible plants, since I'm mostly used to more ornamentals and indoor plants. But there are some very cool plants. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the lavender. I had gotten one before, but sadly it got eaten by some ants, so it it died. But it did flower a couple times, and it was very. It had a very nice scent. All of the ones I'm showing here are just edible plants, so I'm not really commenting much on the information on those. So over here they also had a bit more edible plants like celery. I think they had strawberry too. I don't remember, but they had a couple different fruits or edible plants here. They had some pretty cool, like baskets of ferns. There was a lady there, so I think I stayed in the same position for a while, just showing the same plants. But they did have some pretty cool ones, like very bushy, very big ferns. I and that is the alocasia fried egg, if I'm mistaken. It looks like a fried egg because of the texture on the leaf. So I do have one fern in my house, but at first it wasn't doing too good, but now it looks like it's bouncing back a bit. The ZZ plants, I really like the color and the texture in those leaves, and the one I had before are finally bouncing back after I almost killed them with some overwatering, some scandapsis, some, if I'm mistaken, that's the Photos Brazil, some, I'm not sure if those are Calathea or I don't know if they have another name, but from what I know, they're Calatheas. I don't know a specific type, but that was pretty cool. Sadly, I don't know if they're actually in that color or if they're just very dry. Um, I don't remember the name of the pink one, but I'm not mistaken, that's also Calathea. It's pretty cool. I really like the color on the underside of those leaves. Couple different ivies, very very pretty coloring in those. I like the white around the leaves. They also had some peperomia, the pretty much a variegated version. I do like that one more than the just green one. They also had a couple different carnivorous plants, a couple Venus flytraps. If I'm mistaken, they had some pitcher plants, or I don't know the name of if they're still pitcher plants, but the ones that are still like a little tube instead of the hanging ones. You'll see it in just a second. But they're pretty interesting. Maybe I'll get one of those in the future. I do like the pitcher plants, so I am hoping to get one soon just to see how it is to grow those. They also had some of the more strange, very high coloration cactus. Those, as I think I said before in my other nursery video, those are just mutated cactus that they put on top of a fully green one. Because if they place the mutated ones in those colors on their own, they're just gonna die because since they have no green, they don't have chlorophyll and cannot survive on their own. So they do that where they fuse them with other green, like fully green cactus just to help them survive. They had a couple different syngoniums, some Adansoni. I think those are Adansoni. Yeah, the other ones, I think those are the Adansoni. And I don't know the name of those in English, but they're very pretty. There's a few more ivies. Those are also like trailing plants that stick on the wall. I think that's the Xanadu, the Lantern Xanadu. Very cool. The golden podos, also very pretty. A few different aglaonemas, and yeah, I was gonna say a few more ferns, but those are also some podos Brazil, and the one before, if I'm not mistaken, was the peperomia, and a few more syngoniums. So on all this nursery wasn't that big, but they did have quite a few different interesting plants. A few different caladiums, or yeah, I think those are caladium, not syngoniums. I'm not sure. Just very very cool plants. They had a couple different, very interesting types of plants. As I said before, the edible, the ornamental, and the garden, more external ones. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.